This Spotlight event for Local Enterprise Week is brought to you by the Local Enterprise Offices and supported by Enterprise Ireland, the local authorities and the Government of Ireland.
We're delighted to have you here for this showcase event for Local Enterprise Week. At this stage, I'd like to call on Neil Richmond, Minister of State for Employment Affairs and Retail Business with the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, to address you and officially open this national event.
Thank you very much, Kieran, and good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you all, albeit virtual, here in Carlow for today's Spotlight event as part of Local Enterprise Week 2023. And of course, I'd like to, more importantly, wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, an extremely important event for everyone across the country, men, women and other. And I very much hope we see some inspiring female entrepreneurs driving business in Carlow in the coming weeks, months and years. But by all accounts, this Local Enterprise Week has been a huge success so far, with many of the events sold out and a great attendance being reported, which is fantastic to see, and a proper return to normality for what is the biggest week of the year for our local enterprise offices around the country, as well as, of course, here in Carlow. This week really is the highlight for so many businesses and entrepreneurs around the country too. And this year there is the opportunity to really get out there and network again at Local Enterprise Week for the first time since 2020. And while I'm coming to you all this morning virtually due to commitments in the Dáil, I know for so many of you it's so much more of a better experience to be able to meet and engage and crucially network in person. And I really hope you take the opportunity today and through the week to enjoy it. To be able to connect to a local network and to small businesses that are facing many of the same issues you are can have a massive impact on how you move forward, and broadening your network will always have a positive effect on your business. So we have that back for Local Enterprise Week this year, and it's a huge plus, and I'm sure you'll all agree with that. This is the week where you get to try a little bit of everything and see what works for your business. Assess what you need, or maybe what you think you need, and avail of the experience of the Leos and their network to help guide you on the best way to help maximise your businesses. It might be improving your financial skills, looking for new funding that you can access, trying to innovate within your business, or wanting to upskill with marketing or social media. This week is covering it all. And so important that you take as much of that in as possible. And I know so many of you will leave this week completely enthused as well as inspired. If you're here today for this event, then you are likely already a business owner and you are keen to take those first steps in becoming more sustainable. Or you may have already started that process and you want to see where to go next. Well, this event is a perfect place to start. Sustainability and becoming a greener business is not just a fad or a buzzword. This is about the future of our country, the future of our planet, for ourselves, our children, and all those who come after us. The world isn't ours, but it's our responsibility to leave it in the best possible condition for future generations. And while becoming a greener company or working in a more sustainable way is good for everyone, it will also benefit the bottom line of your business. While there is always an initial investment in setting yourself up, and that is something we are acutely aware of in the department and striving to help businesses do more, you will see immediate benefits by going down a greener path. People understand more now about energy usage than ever before in their homes and in their businesses, and that having machinery and processes that use less energy or do it more efficiently is going to save you money and be better for the environment. These first steps do not even need to be that dramatic. It can be small changes, and that can have a big impact across the board. And we're well aware in the department of rising energy prices and how many people are looking at the gas bill or the electricity bill coming in the doors this week and last week with real concern for the viability of their business. And there is supports there through the TBES schemes and other schemes implemented through your LEO. So please make the most of that, because while becoming a greener company is going to help your bottom line, it is also a growing expectation for your customers and your business partners. They will expect you to have sustainable practices, and while it's a growing concern for this generation, you are guaranteed it will make or break for the next generation. If you are not a sustainable or a green company, you simply will not survive, because we see it at international level too. Many small businesses across the country have benefited from delays in international supply chains to become sub-suppliers to international companies based in Ireland, and one of their key initial asks of a partner is their green policies. All of you here today have decided to embrace this and take these first steps, which is great to see. And no doubt after today's event, you'll be keen to get started and to see those benefits for you as an individual, but also for your business. As I said, the department are continuing to look at new businesses that want to become more sustainable and that will be continuing into the future. So I wish you all the best of luck with those first steps, and rest assured you will simply not regret it. You are going to see customers and clients coming through the door, and this will be their first question more and more over the coming months and years. Finally, on Local Enterprise Week, I would say please do make the most of the rest of the week. Get out there, meet people, share stories, discuss problems, connect with all the great resources and supports that are there in the local enterprise offices and the business agencies in your area. Carlow is a wonderful place to do business. We're part of a really brilliant economy here in Ireland that has huge potential, with full access not just to the wider economy in Carlow and across the country, but the European single market, and as a gateway point for so many businesses across the world who want to work with Irish businesses of all sizes, the new businesses, the existing businesses, and the emerging businesses. I know you're going to have a great session today. I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much for hosting me, and thank you so much for putting up with one last video call. Hopefully I'll be able to get down for next year's Local Enterprise Week in person in Carlow. Best of luck and enjoy the rest of the day.
Put together today's event, we decided to very much have it as a conversation, because the Green Agenda is very much a conversation where people share tips and tricks and kind of figure out. So we put together a panel based on the fact that we needed an SME who's been there, done that, to share the pluses and minuses of it, and delighted to have Pat Hammond from Carlow Toolmaking here to represent that sector. Ronan Murphy from Vision Green Consultancy. Ronan is one of our Green for Micro consultants, but also he's worked on projects with large multinational companies to small companies. So again, practical examples of how you can implement green in your business, whether it be an internationally traded service, retail, or whatever sector you're in. Jim Woods is one of the business advisors across the local enterprise network in the country. Each of the offices has business advisors and senior enterprise development officers who work with companies on an ongoing basis. So Jim will give his insights into the schemes that are available through the Green for Micro scheme, and other schemes are there. And obviously we need someone really competent to control the conversation. So we're delighted to have Helen Carroll here. I'm going to hand over to Helen to facilitate the rest of today's session. So thanks very much for logging online. Our key message is check out the events later in the week and during the week, and we'll hand you over to Helen for the panel conversation now. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Kieran. Thank you all for joining us here in Carlow, and a very big welcome to all of you watching online from all over the country. As Kieran said, this morning we're looking at ways you can make your business more green and more competitive. It's all about Green for Micro, the free programme that helps small businesses take the first steps towards becoming more sustainable. It gives you access to a green consultant who'll guide you on that journey, and we have a green consultant here with us. Ronan, you've worked on Green for Micro, so I think if we just dive straight in, if there would be 5 top tips that businesses should look at, or that you have for businesses who want to be more sustainable, what would they be?
Thanks a million, Helen. Absolute pleasure to be here. I think for a lot of companies it's probably understanding where to start, and a great place to start for any business is to try and measure your data and capture data. Understanding your cost and consumption when it comes to energy, your carbon footprint and emissions associated with your business is a good place to start, a baseline exercise. Secondly, it's looking at the areas are the kind of low cost and capital spend areas where you can implement change. Simple areas to look at within the business in terms of energy could be generating awareness with the team, making sure that everybody is looking at good energy practices. The lights are turned off, machinery is turned off. And then kind of graduating up to low cost, where you're looking at changing the bulbs, LED bulbs, which over the long haul can save money. Making sure fridges, doors are closed and covered, simple little things in butchers and retail outlets. And then making sure there's lights are off within chillers and freezers. Potentially looking at motion sensors, timers and so on. All of these things kind of bundled up between a no-cost, low-cost approach can really have a big impact for small businesses in particular. And then you kind of would look at the capital spends, having benchmarked your business, looked at your data, understanding your costs, potentially developing a business case to look at how you could spend some money to reduce that even further, with the potential for solar or renewable energy, which can help you greatly reduce your emissions and your costs. And then kind of looking at the waste side of the business is important as well. Every single part of your business does contribute to the emissions that are associated with the huge task we have as a nation, but also globally. And waste is a big part of that as well. looking at how you segregate waste. Do you segregate waste? You know, breaking it down into general waste, recycling, composting, and putting in those good waste routines. Looking at packaging, how you can reduce packaging within your business, single-use plastic. A lot of innovative businesses, including Pat's, you know, have looked at using packaging that they get in to reuse to put back out into the economy. Again, bringing it circular. And I suppose lastly then, it's and probably most importantly, and probably in no order of preference, would be the people. You know, it's empowering a culture within your business. And if you embed a culture of sustainability within your business and include your people, it'll benefit the business on a number of fronts, from your profitability, making you more attractive to investors, making you more attractive to customers, but also, probably most importantly, making you attractive to talent and people wanting to come and work with your business in the long term, and ultimately making you more sustainable.
It all sounds very easy, Ronan.
It sounds simple. That's what we're about, yeah.
Have worked with Green for Micro. Ronan came in and put some manners on you. So what's your experience of Green for Micro been like, and what kind of changes did you make?
Yep, thanks, Helen. Carla told me again, we were being asked about our carbon footprint and everything, you know, from multinational companies we were working with. The local enterprise office then put us in contact with Ronan, that we could do a survey on to see what we were actually working on. Ronan came in and looked at everything that we had, took all our costs, all our bills, how we were working with lights, and as he said earlier on, we had started a little bit on our own, but we had nothing down on paper. So after a couple of sessions with Ronan, he came back with a full printout for us of what our carbon footprint was, and he has about 12 goals, so he gave us about 3 different goals that we had to reach. He said, we'll go at it slowly. So,
were you surprised when you got your carbon footprint from Ronan? Was it what you expected it to be?
To be honest, I hadn't a clue what it was going to be, and that it was, I think it was 40 tonne or something like that is what it was. Again, at the time, we didn't know, but I did know that it was in everyday life, recycling and energy and everything was a major problem, and everyone was aware of it, but we didn't actually have figures. So by the help with the enterprise office and with the consultant, we had data in front of us, so now we could sit down and say, well, right, what do we need to do? And Ronan said to us, look, we'll get this bit by bit. We had discovered that some of the things that we were doing, the likes of the waste, and he said the deliveries that were coming into us, we were recycling the boxes and sending them back out again. So we were doing our little bit anyway, so which was reducing. But obviously the big thing at the time, it's a couple of months ago now, the big thing was energy. Energy was going literally sky high, and it was a major one. So we looked at solar panels, we looked at changing out the lights, everything that we were changing. We said as we went along, we would change them to LED lights. We then, in the offices upstairs and everywhere like that, we put sensors on it. So that at night time then, when you were locking up at night, the lights were, you hadn't to go around and switch off all the lights and everything. Simple things like the compressor. The compressor was running all night, and we started fixing leaks. And then we were able to get a little switch that we were able to set up, and the guys done it themselves. Or again, Ronan said about getting the guys involved. We done this with everybody on the floor, and we had previously gone through a lean program, and the lean program was helping because it was to cut down on time, waste, energy, and everything like that. So the lads started looking at things. Why don't we get an automatic switch on the compressor that we can switch it off at 6 o'clock in the evening, and it doesn't come on until the next morning? And we noticed things coming out, but we were getting loads of feedback from the people on the floor, which is very important, because there's no point in somebody sitting in an office talking to Ronan, coming down, spending 2 hours with him, we're going to do this, that and other, and then there's nobody buying into it. So we found that you need everybody on board. And then, in fairness, I was able to sit back a little bit, and the guys were coming to me with, why don't we do this and why don't we do that? So
And actually, the proof is, I suppose, in the pudding that you're the only person I've spoken to in the last few months who actually got a pleasant surprise when they opened their electricity bill.
We did, yeah. We put in solar panels there in November, and I know you have to base it over a year and everything like that, but we got a bill in early February, and the bill comes in online, but this time we said, let's dig deeper into the bill, which you can, it's there. I didn't realise it's there the whole time, but we dug deeper, and the ESB had sent us a note, you're 56% down on your usage than you were this time last year. One was 62 days and the other was 65 days. Now, I'll tell you next February whether it's incredible or not. But we didn't do anything different this year than we done last year. We weren't working around the clock last year that we were driving the bills, man.
It was a lot of those small steps you took.
It was a lot of the small steps. The unit that we put in, the kilowatts or whatever, 29 kilowatts, we noticed, and obviously it's weather-wise, it's not the best time of the year. And you're only getting 6 or 8 hours daylight, whereas in July or August, you're going to be getting more daylight, 15 or 16 hours. But the big thing as well is when you're not there, when you're not generating it, or you're not using it, it's going back into the grid. So over the weekends and all that, Saturday, Sunday, and obviously evening time, you will be getting, and you get a credit back for that.
Jim, business advisor with Carlo Leo years ago. So a lot of people are familiar with it. It's still new to some people. So tell me a little bit about it and how successful has it been over the 2 years?
Thanks very much, Helen. Yes, it started out as a pilot. It's just over 2 years going now. It's been extremely successful. Hundreds of businesses throughout the country have availed of it. And it really kind of epitomises what the Leo is about. We can hear here from Ronan and Pat. We have one guy running a very successful business for decades, excellent tool-making business. Be the first to put his hand up and say, I didn't know where to start, didn't know where to go. We have people like Ronan who have the expertise, the knowledge to really help with that. And then our job is to facilitate that. And the Green from Micro program does that brilliantly. It allows small businesses to apply online very simply. It's nationally available. They apply for the voucher, and essentially they get 2 days consultancy with someone like Ronan or Ron himself, free of charge. And that can be invaluable to small business, as evidenced by Pat. So they can get a real insight as to where to start, what to do, assess where they are, and then where they want to get to, and develop a road path for that. And we've seen the Leo over the last number of years that the whole green space, notwithstanding what's happened in the world in the last year, it has been developing for a long time, but initially it was kind of a nice to have for businesses, and some businesses had it. It went from there to actually impacting the bottom line, and all of a sudden businesses can see, well, if I make an effort here, I can save money on this. And we now see it going a step further, and Ronan will speak on this later on, but we see regulatory pressures now being put on small businesses. And at the minute, as it always starts off, it's starting with the larger businesses, but that ceiling is going to come down and down, and eventually that ceiling is going to touch every small business in the country, and they're simply going to have to deal with the green issue. They're going to have green credentials. They are not going to be able to operate. None of the major players, none of the bigger businesses are going to even engage with you unless day one you can show them what you're doing, how you're improving, because that's feeding into the whole green chain. So businesses really do have to get to grips with this. You just can't avoid it. That's where the Green from Micro program is fantastic. It's been very successful. It is continuing. We know that there may be some capital support available. We don't have details on that yet, but that's in the pipeline. That will be available to businesses who have availed for the Green from Micro program. We also have Green Start, which is a step further, where businesses have availed again for the Green from Micro, and they want to go deeper. They want to maybe develop a bigger plan for their business, and that's available as well.
Great. You might tell us, Ronan, a little bit about those regulations. They're not quite reaching micro businesses yet, but it's just a matter of time.
It is indeed, yeah. Probably some already are. So the corporate sustainability reporting directive came into effect on the 5th of January this year. And what that means now is that EU nations have up to 18 months to bring that into law. And basically that brings into, currently at this moment in time, companies with 500 plus employees would produce sustainability reporting metrics alongside the company accounts from a financial perspective, just around the reporting or the sustainability of the business. And it's designed for the likes of shareholders and investors who would look at the performance, not only financially of a business, but how sustainable is it? How does it impact the environment and society that it operates in? And it is the right way to go. But what that effect will have now is from next year on, there's another 50,000 businesses being brought into scope in terms of the SME sector. And from 25, I think it's the end of 2025, they'll have to produce these reports based on environmental impact data, how you treat your people, how do you impact the society you operate in. And those SME businesses of a certain size work with the larger global cohorts in their value chains, and then ultimately micro enterprises also work with these SMEs. So inadvertently, although the micro are not directly in scope of the directive, they will be part of the value chain of the companies that are going to be expected to report. So as Pat mentioned earlier, the big multinationals were speaking to Pat previously about data which Pat didn't realise he needed to have or would need, and now he has ample amount of information he can share with these guys to show them that he's taken action. Because it will become a prerequisite to actually doing business with these guys and winning and maintaining new business.
And greenwashing is a term that's bandied around an awful lot, but you can't really get away with that anymore because the data is checked. They get down to the nitty gritty and check that what you're doing is making a difference, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. I think that's... The mic is gone, is it? Sorry.
You're back.
We're back. Yeah, so the reporting mechanism takes into account a number of topics, material topics that companies report on, from environmental impact data, sustainable finance, the culture of the company and how they treat their people, diversity, inclusiveness and equality within the business. So it's all of the right things to be looking at and shining a proper light on. And when you produce an actual report, which will need to be externally assured as well, puts another kind of stamp on it, then you're getting into a place where you actually know that company is doing what it said it's doing. And you move away from, as you say, the greenwashing side of things.
Pat, you had access to Ronan, to your green consultant, for 2 days. Was 2 days enough time to make a difference?
Ronan gave us more than 2 days, in fairness. And what we found about it was these big multinationals and everyone, they all have a Ronan on site, whereas the small companies don't, and you don't. And without it, we just couldn't have. Well, number one, we probably wouldn't have even known where to go looking.
So a little bit of Ronan is better than no Ronan.
But no, it's great that you. Like when we had full access to him, and we had full reports and everything like that. And these are things that you can't account for yourself. Small businesses can't, but the information we got back was brilliant.
Okay, and for you, what steps made the biggest difference? I know it's a bigger picture, but it's the energy for you from listening to you, even as regards your overheads as a business.
Yeah, well, it was the energy.
The biggest impact, was it?
It was. But as I said, look, from a personal point of view, you're trying to recycle anyway. So now you're saying, right, what can I bring into the business? So we ended up, I think, 70 or 80 solar panels on the roof. That was a big thing. All our lights and stuff like that we changed. But even the trail of thought that has changed with the people working. Why don't we do something with the compressor? That never crossed. And compressed air is one of the most expensive things going, and you have leaks and everything, and you have something leaking there all weekend or running all weekend.
So it's kind of listen to everybody on your team.
Well, yes, yeah, without a doubt. Everyone has bought into it, and everyone has come up with. We've come up with simple little solutions now. The guys even have apps on their phone where they can switch off if the machine is running automatic. They can check the machine. They bought a little camera, popped it onto the machine. They can look at it at 9 o'clock. It's finished, and they're able to switch off the compressor and the machine on the app on the phone.
Jim, Pat's business in particular would use a lot of energy in making these high precision tools.
Now, Pat would be a particularly high energy user, and obviously the impact could be seen greater there. But every business is affected, some more than others, some on the inputs, some on the outputs. But wherever they are in that frame, it needs to be addressed, and the programme can help with that. So yes, it will be to different and varying degrees, but it does affect every business, and every business can improve. And again, back to the original point, really, if it even was a neutral point, they still have to be able to say that. If they don't have the scope to improve their position, they have to state what it is, and they have to say that they have at least averted to it, and they've acknowledged it, measured it, and stay where they are. So even where the gains wouldn't be as great as Pat's, it has to be looked at, and the programme will do that very efficiently.
It's a free programme, so I'd imagine demand is quite good. Can you give us an idea of the kind of micro businesses in your area, in Carlow?
Absolutely. We've had everything. We've from professional services to hospitality to construction. Every type of business has applied and benefited from it, got the reports, and now are better informed and are taking action in that space. So we think it's been very successful, and with further supports in the pipeline as well to those that have already taken part in the scheme, we've huge hopes. But that picture is reflected nationally. It's not just within Carlow. The reports all around the country are very strong, very positive.
Ronan, you were saying the first thing you do when you go in is measure the footprint and measure, I suppose, the impact each business has on the environment. Is that something that only a specialist can do? Can any company out there, I suppose, do a very simple data gathering exercise to see how big the footprint is?
Look, I think there's like obviously, what we would have specialists in the business lead emission verifiers using globally recognised emission reporting standards, and that's something that we would pride ourselves on in terms of service delivery. Excuse me, but there's standard calculators out there that you could use, but to get in amongst the actual the business itself, you always learn more. And working with somebody who understands exactly what it means, and it's all well and good if you can get some high level information through calculators or so on. It's understanding what it means and then how to use that data to actually develop plans around decarbonising the business. And I think Pat's business is a great example of that. Like in terms of the one thing I noticed straight away meeting with Pat was the team, and the energy they had, excuse the pun, around that to want to make a difference and make a change. And very quickly you could actually see the team coming to me with suggestions and coming to Pat with suggestions and so on, which is a key part of any kind of strategy that you have within the business to move to a more sustainable model.
The report then that you give the businesses, I presume you're mindful of how much it will cost, how easy it is to implement the changes, and I suppose the impact it could have on the business. So it's very bespoke according to each business you go into.
Yeah, the process can be very similar, but the outputs can vary greatly depending on the sector that you're working in and the type of company it is. And then from that, developing a business case, what we would generally do is help a company develop a business case to make changes. It could be in Pat's instance, it was energy, within the business, machinery and so on, developing a business case for solar. But alternatively, you could be working with a logistics company who have high emissions associated with diesel and they want to make a move to a more sustainable model because their clients and partners are demanding that. Then you have to look at alternative fuel solutions and so on. So the actual baseline data allows you to start to look at ideas and then start to develop the business cases associated with it.
Some changes don't cost a huge amount of money, like switching to LED bulbs and things like that, and some changes can cost quite a bit. So will you guide them as regards grants and financial assistance that's available there too?
Yeah, we do. There's various different supports available, and I think, as Jim said, at some point in the near future, potentially capital support coming through the local enterprise office, but there is various other grant supports that are available to companies to work on projects exploring this through Enterprise Ireland, and then an alternative through SEAI in the likes of the decarbonisation grants like Exceed and so on. There is processes associated with each, and not all would suit the companies depending on their size, and they are kind of tailored to different companies of different sizes. But a lot of companies don't know about a lot of these supports at times, and it's something that we find is one of the biggest barriers to companies exploring switching to a more sustainable model is finance, because the last 15 months has been extremely difficult for companies with the geopolitical situation and rising energy costs and the cost of doing business. and the barrier of getting expertise in and the cost of that can be greatly reduced through grant support from the likes of the Leo and Enterprise Ireland as well.
But maybe the other way of looking at it, Jim, is that because of the geopolitical situation and because energy costs are soaring, it's actually another incentive to go a bit greener because you're going to save money too.
Absolutely. It's become an easier sell with the event of the war. Really, there is just no way around it. People just have to bite this bullet and to deal with it. And the incentive is there now more than ever just to do it and to engage with the whole programme.
Pat, your customers, your clients are large multinationals.
Yes.
And you were saying they started asking you questions. So I suppose you, in order to stay viable as a business, you needed to become greener because that's what your customers expected of you?
Well, kind of each year you're asked to, update your data and stuff like that. But even going to a new customer, trying to get in, it could take 6 or 8 months to get in. But on the questionnaire, it could be asked, what's your carbon footprint? And we were sitting, I don't know. So then it was easier. So now that they see that we're working on it, I'm sure somewhere along the line it ticks a box, these guys are doing something. So, it's not getting it in the door, but it's certainly helping and stuff like that.
And that's a particular type of business. So it is a small business dealing with big multinationals. But for other businesses, whether it's a butcher, a baker, is the general customer on the street starting to become concerned about the sustainability of the people they give their money to?
Oh, I believe they absolutely are. Down to the last penny that they're spending. They're looking more closely at what's been produced, how it's been produced, what impact it's having, what effect it will have on themselves and their future generations. And even slightly one step away from one business element, it's part of more holistic and healthy living. It all feeds into that space and the more localised living, which was COVID actually kind of uncovered a lot of that sentiment in people, which hadn't been seen for a long time, where people are actually buying into the more local economy, enjoying that, and the benefits then both to the businesses and to the people living there are fantastic. So these things all fold in together. And again, that's really part of our job in the Local Enterprise Office. We would have huge insight to the number and scope of businesses within the area, and we know how they interact with each other. And it's great for us to be able to put the appropriate measures and supports in place that suit these people. And that's why we encourage any small business throughout the country, go to your local enterprise office, speak to them. Apart from the Green for Micro programme, there are numerous other supports available. Ones that you won't have even heard of or that you mightn't realise that are suitable to you. But when you come in and speak to an advisor and kind of outline your position, they can advise you what is available and what might be good for you. Even locally here within Carlow and Kilkenny, we have on the 29th of March this year, we have a lunchtime seminar aimed at small businesses to show them how they can improve their efficiencies, make better use of their resources. That's a free event. It's a lunchtime event. People are going to eat anyway. Come in for the hour. Any business in Carlow, Kilkenny avail of that. But these sort of supports, we're positioned that we can see the greater landscape, how these things can be linked together, and how even from, say, the scope of Pat's business down to a smaller business, where they can get support. And a lot of these things, they interfeed off each other, really and truly. The likes of the Green for Micro, once people get into that space, they're improving their offering, and it benefits the people buying those products as well.
I suppose an awful lot of people watching this and people here in the room will wonder, I suppose, explain to us what you did with your time with him and the kind of changes that you encouraged him to implement or to finesse and improve on what he was doing already.
Yeah. So the 2 days, we would basically, a big part of the first kind of session we would have had with Pat would have been data gathering, looking at the energy consumption, the type of business it is, the machines that were there, and then assessing the waste within the business, gathering all the information that we have, and then we would take that away and pull together through our own models the outputs of that. We also met the team on several occasions just to get buy-in from the guys, make sure that everybody was on board with what the programme was about, what it could mean for the business, and from an educational perspective as well, to make sure that anything that was going to be suggested could be landed. And then we would have fed back to Pat, some recommendations around, obviously, first and foremost, the data, what it looks like and what it means. Because, as Pat said, he didn't know what it meant at first. And that's really important, is to make sure that the companies understand what the data means.
And what's a good and a bad footprint? You mentioned, what were you told your footprint was after dealing with Ronan?
40 tons, yeah.
Is that good or bad?
That's what Pat asked me, actually, when we first met as well. And again, I think we always, the advice we give to people, there's no bad numbers such. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but you're starting to look at your business in that perspective, so that's a good thing. Relative to the sector, it probably wouldn't be massive to the size of the business that Pat has. But what that number enabled Pat to do was to understand exactly where his baseline was, and then how he could actually look at the only way is down, essentially, which over the last 12 months he's been super proactive in actually reducing that. And down being a good thing in this case. Exactly. Yeah. One example that you gave me earlier, Pat, and such a simple thing, that, as you were saying, that the cardboard boxes that were coming in, you were sending them back out again, but you were kind of making them your cardboard boxes. Tell me what you did there. Well, we were getting deliveries the whole time, and we'd be sending out stuff, and the guy said we should get our own brand of, a different box. I said, right, we looked at it and the whole lot, and then we said, right. So we bought tape with our name on it, and we used the boxes that people sent in now. We just repacked them up and we still had to put brown tape on them, so we put CTS tape on it and send it back out. So we don't have bales and bales of cardboard being dumped or recycled every week. It is being recycled, but it's going back to the couriers, going back out to the bigger companies. And such a simple idea. Yeah, it was brilliant. Was that your idea, Ronan, or was it Pat's? No, to be fair to Pat, he was being very prudent. I just highlighted it as it was something Pat was doing normally, there was a few of those examples with Pat and the team that they were doing kind of day to day, but they didn't really realise it was such a good solution and what it meant to the numbers and how it reduced the amount of waste that they could generate in the business. And essentially, it's those type of things that you'd get through on a couple of days. We'd also do a benchmarking exercise with the business around globally recognised sustainability goals, and that would develop an action plan, aligning with the goals to say, what's important to the business, how do you want to move forward, and there might be 10 items on the action plan list, but you might only take one or two that you'd work on over the next 12 months. And Pat has taken a couple of those that have made a huge impact into his business. Jim, have you had an audit in the local enterprise office in Carlow, or have you changed the way you do business as well?
Well, we're blessed in Carlow County Council that we have a very good environment section, and they at the moment are working diligently through creating a first climate action plan, which every council in the country needs to do. We all have a big target for 2030 that we're trying to hit. So as part of that, we are included. We're a little different in Carlow in that we geographically are separate from the council building itself. But Carlow County Council are very involved in that space. They've been using solar power extensively for a long time now. And we have a number of people working on that. And there are more improvements coming. Even the simple things, like even as in Pat's business, there's an awful lot of low-hanging fruit everywhere. The lights are a huge one. The introduction of the LED lights are going to, from an energy consumption point of view, going to improve things greatly. And then the other end of the cycle, where we've output some waste, that's continually been monitored and looked at as well. There's some very interesting projects around Carlow itself in terms of reed beds for recycling, and there's a lot of projects like that. Also, in terms of funding, anybody who has ideas in this space, and we're always open to hearing from small businesses with new ideas. We love that. There's a lot of European funding available for anybody that has ideas or expertise in these areas and that want to improve on it. So,
I suppose when Green for Micro was set up, it was March 20. Might help businesses get through these ever-increasing once-in-a-lifetime events that are happening?
There absolutely is, and part of that resilience is to be prepared for the unprepared. And so many businesses, unfortunately, were caught flat-footed with those events, both COVID and the Ukraine war, and issues that they would never have considered before in their business became crucial. Energy being one of them. We've seen businesses close because of their energy bills. If you'd spoken to them 3 months before that, they would have been flying it, and it wouldn't have even been on their radar. So it's a very important part of business is you don't know what you don't know, but you have to build that resilience and that strength that at least when these unexpected events land upon you, that you have some preparation ready for them. Energy is absolutely key. We know that now. And even if a magic wand was to wave tomorrow and everything was to be okay, we don't know if it's going to be okay in 2 or 3 or 6 months' time. So we need to be prepared for that.
Ronan, we focus mainly, I suppose, on the positive impacts for businesses from a kind of a financial point of view and a competitive point of view. What we haven't really touched on yet is the environmental impact of the kind of changes that businesses are making. And particularly, we can see that if a large company makes changes just because of the scale of it, the impact it will have. But what kind of difference does a small company making small changes have on the environment?
A massive difference. I think there's more smaller businesses in this country than there is larger companies. And when you bunch all of those companies together, they probably have a higher footprint in terms of CO2 emissions in the commercial sector than the big corporates. So if each small individual business can take, and I can see some of my previous clients here as well in the audience who have done some fantastic things as well, and similar to Pat, if everybody was to take that approach and build that internal climate resilience as we talk about, then step by step that pool of emissions associated with that, I think there's a couple 100,000 small businesses in this country, which is significant, and that's just Ireland. In the UK there's a hell of a lot more, in Europe there's a hell of a lot more. So it can have a massive impact in reducing your environmental impact on society, and that in turn becomes a really valuable marketing tool as well. We've worked with a lot of companies nationally in the Green for Micro programme, some of which would be developing products and services that they never would have even thought about the carbon impact that they were of that product when it went to market. And then working with ourselves, we would help them develop, a calculator or a tool that would show them what that impact could look like. And in turn then, that becomes a more attractive product or proposition for a customer or consumer. Because ultimately, everybody is shopping with their conscience now, and all of our choices are going to make a difference. But there's a huge opportunity for the micro and SME sector in Ireland in terms of decarbonisation. You've worked with large companies, you worked with small companies and the in-between, but are there any in particular that stand out in your mind as being, I suppose, making big changes, or that gave you the greatest satisfaction in seeing the impact your work has had on them? Yeah, there's been a couple of big projects that our business we would have worked on, with large retailer in terms of a circular economy solution for food waste, which was to develop a logistic solution to take food that wasn't fit for human consumption, bringing it to an indigenous anaerobic digestion plant and turn that food waste into renewable energy that went back in to heat the retailer stores. It was a first of its kind solution in Ireland, and the emissions benefit associated with that was on a large scale due to just the size of the company. So that gave us some great satisfaction, and we're also working with a really large logistics company at the moment on their alternative fuel strategy, which will be a significant impact in terms of Ireland's national target in the logistics sector as well. So, and we look, whatever the size of the business, we as a business, like our mission is to try and make sustainability simpler for companies, and companies of all sizes we try and help, which is why we're very proactive with the likes of the local enterprise offices in various regions around the country. Pat, from your point of view, as well as feeling the benefit in your wallet, do you personally get much satisfaction from the changes that you've made in your business?
Oh, we do, yes, and it's more satisfaction. I even see that it's everyone that's working there now is looking at it. So if something else, if nothing else, like we've kind of started a little trend and stuff like, I have grandchildren at home and stuff like that. They're talking about, recycling. They're taught that in school and everything like that. So, you're being left out now if you don't get involved with it. Like, do you know what I mean?
So does it change your mindset completely then? This is not just about work and
no.
your place of work. This is something when you're at home, even, that this is something in the forefront of your mind.
It is, yes, yeah. Without a doubt it is. Like, you know, even going to the Carlow County Council, like go to the recycling every Saturday or whatever like that, and obviously you're embedding it in the grandkids as well, because they're putting the packaging in different places, and that's not going to landfill. But it's the same with our waste inside. Even though I know you're saying we're a big company, we don't have a massive amount of waste or anything like that. But like the scrap metal and everything like that, that's all been recycled. But that always was being recycled. But now, because you're aware of it.
Jim, it really is a big ask of businesses at the moment, because economic climate, aren't we?
We are, and it's a very tough ask, but it's not going away. It has to be dealt with. And really, there aren't many options. This needs to be engaged with and worked with, or simply people will be left behind. But that's why we are putting so many supports in place. That's why we have we've funding available to help businesses. We have the Green for Micro, the Green Start. We hope to see a pilot scheme later in the year for capital. But apart from that, these elements of running a business rarely operate in a vacuum on their own. They're usually tied up to other elements of the business. And that's why, like every other LEO in the country, we have panels of mentors and advisors that can help small business, that can direct them as to how to manage the situation, and maybe look at the business overall, just not the green section of it, but let's look at the whole business as a whole. Look at where it's going strategically, look where it is financially, how that's going to be dealt with over the next couple of years, if capital investment is required to work with this green issue. But we have people in place that can help and talk on these things and advise. And if that runs into other areas of the business, be it marketing or HR or whatever section of the business that needs some guidance at any point, we have that available in our offices. We have people, experts available. And all this can feed into the green agenda, but it can't be looked at in isolation, because that would be very difficult. But make no mistake, businesses need to deal with this issue or they're going to be left behind. It's like, it'll be the next internet if you want, but you're just going to have to deal with this.
You want to come about?
Sorry, just I know you were saying about it costs a lot of money for people. It doesn't have to cost. You know, it all depends on far you're. Like switching off a light costs nothing. Replacing the bulbs with LED bulbs, you're going to have to replace it either way. A certain amount of waste and stuff like that, just segregating it doesn't cost. You can go, you know, you can spend thousands as well, but you can start off and get the mind working properly for literally for nothing. And even if you just get your report, you're going to be backed by the enterprise board with the likes of Ronan. He'll give you the report, and then you can sit and look at it and then bite it off slowly. And you will find, well, look at if we just done another little bit and another little bit, and then if there was an initial cost on, let it be so. In our case, it was solar panels, but anything else that we done was just normal things that we were doing anyway.
So the solar panels were the most expensive step you took?
Without a doubt, yeah.
Right. And have you seen, again, it takes a long time for them to kind of pay for themselves, does it?
You get reports with the solar panels and everything, and because you're feeding back into the grid when you're not actually using it, there's a 3 or 4 year payback on it as well.
But you're happy with them?
Oh, I'm happy with them, yes.
Okay. You want to come in, Ron?
Yeah, I think as well, like a lot of, you know, when you look at sustainability, a lot of companies, a lot of people would look at sustainability as climate, environment, energy, and so on, and it's a lot more than that. You know, especially when it comes to a business, that, you know, you look holistically at the business, both from not only the environmental impact, the climate impact, but also, you know, your people, you know, how your business interacts in the community, in the society. And I think in Pat's example as well, something that we probably, he didn't touch on, but he's a passionate man about it as well, is apprenticeships within that business and within that trade, and how that translates into a community and bringing on a new generation of skill sets. And Pat probably wouldn't even realise this as well. We touched on it before as well. It was his business alone has probably put people through college, fed families, and put meals on the table in the community as well. So the SMEs are the lifeblood of the economy as such. And if you can put sustainability, embedded in the culture, it can have endless benefits.
I heard it described as a triple bottom line from sustainability. It's people, profit, and planet. And it's kind of ticking all those boxes, isn't it?
Exactly. And if you can get all three aligned, the business is going to it'll prosper, it'll be profitable, it'll have less impact on the environment, and your people will want to work for you, and your people will want to talk about you and want to talk about your brand, and ultimately that's better for everybody as well. Your company's a great place to work, and that's really important.
I suppose if we're coming towards the end of the hour, so we'll start wrapping it up. But Pat, if you could encourage, or if you had any words of encouragement for a small company that might be considering doing something like this, what would you say to them?
Contact Jim and find out, or your local development office. Go find out. Speak to a consultant like Ronan or whatever. Get your plan. Have a look at it. You don't have to do it all in the next month or 2 months. Pick out little parts that you can work with and work with it from there, and it will benefit in the long run. As I said, even if it's a home office like yours, you're talking about using energy. Everyone now has lights, computers, heat, and everything like that. So it's all energy. From that point of view, everyone has waste and all that. So you can make big changes, with baby steps. That was it, basically.
And it's free, so why wouldn't you?
But it's not only is free, it's priceless, because if you were to go and employ somebody to do this kind of, even the logistics of getting somebody and then having, do you have the work for them or anything like that? It's just ongoing. But it will open doors for you as well, I believe myself, with the bigger companies. And as the lads were saying earlier on, everybody now is looking at what exactly is this company doing, and maybe we'll just move with them instead.
Because ultimately that's what it comes down to, Ronan. This isn't really an option anymore, is it?
No, it's not. Obviously, with the reporting directive coming into line, it is. I think it's incumbent anyway on all of us, as individuals and as businesses, to look at how we can change our behaviours and our habits. Some people and some companies are better than others, and some need more help than others. But I think, I like the way Pat's described it there as priceless. That's a great way to look at it, because it's a huge challenge for companies to start to understand this stuff. And they need help, and I suppose the advice I would give is that help is there. Don't be afraid to ask for it, and certainly this programme and others like it can definitely help your business transition to a more sustainable model.
Well, there you go. That's it in a nutshell, really, that the help is there, and the advice is there, and it's free. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to come here to Carlow this morning, and I'd like to thank everybody who's watching online from all over the country. And I'm going to hand back over to you now, Jim, to say a few closing words. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Helen. Well, firstly, thanks to the Minister for introducing us this morning, to yourself, Helen, Pat and Ron for joining us, to our audience here, audience online. Thank you very much. I hope you all got something from it. I'd just like to finish by really saying to everyone, to encourage you all to engage with the local enterprise office within your area throughout the country. There's super supports and help available. It might only be a few words. It might be a check. You don't know. There are grants available, but there's certainly a lot of advice available. And this Green for Micro programme is one of the really good supports available there. I'd encourage any small business to engage with their local enterprise office, and we certainly look forward to hearing from you. And thank you very much to you all.
Thank you for supporting Local Enterprise Week. To find out more about other supports and programmes for your business, just visit localenterprise.ie.